the New Orleans Humanist Perspective, presented by the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, following are a few principles of humanism.
We're committed to the use of science and reason for understanding the universe and for solving human problems. We're skeptical of untested claims of knowledge, but we're open to new ideas.
We are concerned with securing justice and fairness in society and in ending intolerance and discrimination. We are committed to the total separation of religion and government.
We affirm humanism as a realistic alternative to the theologies of despair and the ideologies of violence. We reject the concept of an afterlife and believe in living a full and rewarding life here and now.
We value and respect each individual's right to judge and lead their lives according to their own position, as long as it's respectful of other people living in a free society.
We hope you enjoy today's program and others in the weeks to follow.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Humanist Perspective. I'm your host this evening, Jim Dugan. For more information about the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, please visit nosha.org. My guests this evening are Scott Ploof, publisher, and Michael David Raso, contributing writer, to BigEasyMagazine.com. Gentlemen, welcome to this evening's show. Please start by telling us a little bit about yourselves.
First of all, Jim, I want to thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure being on your show today. I'm Scott Ploof. I am 36. Just had a birthday a couple days ago. I am the publisher and founder of Big Easy Magazine. It was founded in June of 2018, so we've been in business for about a year and a half now. We have branded ourselves as the online home for progressive New Orleans. Our motto is unapologetically progressive, uniquely New Orleans. Our values include kindness, love, justice, equality, inclusiveness, and compassion, and that really governs and guides everything that we do, how we approach things, what we publish, what we write about.
And Michael.
Thank you for having us, Jim. I'm a writer, a filmmaker, and I'm proud to say that I'm a part of Big Easy Magazine and a sincere and genuine progressive that supports progressive causes.
So a key phrase here in the identity of the magazine is unapologetically progressive. So what do you mean by that? How that's your motto, I guess.
We basically don't back down from our ideals. We stand for progressivism, and we push forward with that. We've had a lot of naysayers in the past, and we listen, we take them on, but we know that our ideas are real ideas, that what we stand for is true. And so for me, at least, truth is what progressivism is about. And we stand for that when other people will say there's two sides to every story. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes there is just the truth.
So do you see Big Easy Magazine as primarily a news agency, as a look at life in New Orleans? Is it more about current events, local activities?
I think one thing that I really, a lot of people appreciate about our publication is that we have an eclectic mix of content. We focus on the arts and film. We have a film writer, a film reviewer. We even have satire. Michael Raso does a fantastic job of really using humor to add perspective to things, and I've always been a fan of that. So we do a satire piece once per week. But like Michael was saying, we are unapologetically progressive, and I think that if you look at our writing, if you look at what we publish and talk about, it's not that we are biased or slanted in our writing and what we're saying. We're very objective, but the things that we choose to cover are more along the lines of progressive ideals, fall within the category of progressivism. We, equal access and affordable health care, better education. If you look at the mainstream media, you don't see a lot of the media going after the charter schools. We're not pro-charter. Criminal justice reform, LGBTQ equality, coastal restoration, all of these things that have a huge impact on the lives of many New Orleanians and Louisianians at large.
So how did this get started? You each had different backgrounds and must have perceived some kind of niche, an opening somewhere for.
Well, yeah. So about a year and a half ago, in June of 2018, I was hanging out with some friends at the Cava Bar, Euphorbia Cava Bar, and if you really want to know how I got started, and then someone showed me a listing on Craigslist, I believe that's what it was, and they said, "Oh, look at this, man! We can do amazing things with this domain name. BigEasyMagazine.com is available for $250." And me, I'm business-minded. I have a background in business. I have a master's in business administration from Southeastern, so the wheels were spinning in my mind. What can we do with Big Easy Magazine? That is a very popular domain name. So a few of the guys, Nolan Story and Bill Arsenault, we started, putting our heads together, and later came Michael about what we can do, like what defines the city of New Orleans? What are people like? And so we felt like there was a niche here because there really wasn't a real progressive news media site outlet in New Orleans, and we felt like we had the opportunity to write about and publish topics that reflect the will of the people, the people's voices. A lot of times people's voices in New Orleans go unheard because we feel like the media, the mainstream media, really has a lot of corporate dollars, and that sometimes holds them back from saying things that need to be said.
So you might say.
So we have a more independent voice, I would say, and we don't have as much corporate influence. We do have to have some advertising dollars our way, but we do not let that influence what we write or how we write it.
So you would say something like the Picayune or the Advocate are a little too cautious?
I think they are, and understandably so. And I understand the environment. Having been in this about a year and a half now, we've gotten pushback. We've even lost a couple advertisers due to certain stories that we've published. I know you're probably going to bring up later in the show, possibly the Drew Brees story. That was a big controversy this past year. But we were inundated with emails and phone calls after that story saying, we're a little hesitant to go with you guys now because you kind of like touched the golden calf, But then others, and I think that's the silver lining, though. I think I was going back earlier saying that we have this niche audience. Some people were so excited that we went there, that we actually went into politics and sports and culture, an area that no man's land. A lot of people don't explore, but the fact that we went there really excited a core group of advertisers, a core group of people, and it energized our base and said, you guys are willing to go there and tell the truth and stand up for LGBTQ equality, taking on someone like Drew Brees. That's admirable. And those are the type of people who I think appreciate what we do and will advertise with us and be with us for the long run.
So you mentioned seeing this niche and this opportunity, noticing this opportunity of the domain name. Were you bringing a publishing background to this, or?
That's funny you say that.
Yeah.
I only have a master's degree in business administration. So I don't have a publishing background. I do have writing experience. I used to write a column for the Daily Star. I grew up in Ponchatoula. I used to write for the Hammond Daily Star, maybe like once per month. I always really loved writing about politics, expressing my views, progressive policies. And so, and in addition to that, the only other experience I had was being an associate editor of a small education journal at the university that I was attending at the time. So it just really, what motivated it, I guess, was because like in the aftermath of the Trump election, the energy was palpable. I felt like I knew we had to do something to counter all the negativity and the racism and this hostile environment towards progressives and liberals. And so we saw this as an opportunity to espouse progressive views and progressive ideals and stand up for people, everyday people, and people of New Orleans.
So it must have been quite a learning curve starting this thing.
It was definitely a learning curve. Everything's a learning curve. This interview is a learning curve. But it was, you know, I'd say that our writers have developed over the last year. We get feedback from the general public, from our fans, our readers, and we take that feedback very seriously. It's helped us to grow, to learn, and to develop. And I've seen a tremendous progress in our publication over the last year.
Just a development of the skill set of the writers, the development of a sense of the stories or what readers want to.
Definitely. Scott has given me a real opportunity at times to expand my own writing work. When I met him, I was at a coffee shop / gaming role-playing place, and I was mostly writing about food and booze, and I'd just written a story about Airbnb, and he liked that so much he wanted to see more of that sort of thing, and I went, okay. And that put me in a much more political landscape, but with Scott, he let me cover movies and sex and satire. With Big Easy Magazine, I've really been able to take my writing in so many directions because of this publication, and it's been really good for my creativity and my skill set.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an important part of a publication, right, is giving writers a chance to try out some different things, expand their repertoire, look at different issues and in different areas. But you're used to writing satire a great deal, I think. Yes. Or is that something new for you?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I grew up on Dave Barry, and I lived and breathed his humor columns, and I grew up on political satire, and it's something I've always sort of written about just on my own private time, but I never really did it professionally. And it's been a real fun time and a real privilege to kind of go after power in a humorous tone. And that's been really a big joy at Big Easy Magazine.
So you see an opportunity, you collect a group of people who are interested in this opportunity, start to try to learn how to make this work. What were some of the major stumbling blocks?
Well,
you have a list.
Yeah, there were quite a few stumbling blocks. I think it was, finding a way to get the revenue, really, to match what we were spending and trying to publish the content. And how frequent were we going to publish? Were we going to go monthly, or were we going to do daily? And at first, we started out monthly, but something that I really I wasn't too familiar with at first was how was the audience going to react in terms of like viewing the site, coming back. So we learned that the best mix that we developed over time was a mixture of full monthly editions, which would give our writers time to research a story or development thoroughly and write that in more detail, and also daily content, rewrites. If we can't get to it first, because we are a smaller publication, we like to rewrite stories that are just breaking, but with our own context, and it's with our own unique style. So I think that you have the blend of weekly content with film reviews, satire, and then you have the full-on monthly editions that really take on some major issues and challenges like our infrastructure, sewage and water board, Airbnb, things of that nature. And I think, over time, we started to see that mixture is what was generating the more positive feedback, and also more page views. People were returning. We started seeing a big increase in returning visitors. In fact, just a couple months ago, after the Drew Brees story, even the month before, leading up to the Drew Brees story, we reached 70,000 page views, and we were only in operation for less than a year. And then that next month, we came out with the Brees story, and we reached 140,000 page views. So I feel like the energy is palpable. People are responding. I feel like we did tap into that niche, and we still are. And I really do appreciate all of our readers. I want to thank all of you for standing with us and sticking by us. And we're just going to keep plugging away at it and see how we can grow and develop more.
So I guess part of the question is to try to get at, like, what kind of problems have you had to overcome? I guess you're saying you had to find, the issues that reach people is part of it, and balance that with, I guess, advertising revenue and.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the major challenges of any publication, especially in for-profit journalism. When you're a startup publication, you're trying to find sponsors, and so that's one of the major challenges, is to get sponsors who are willing to stand by you and to stand by your unapologetically progressive message, because sometimes that's not going to be popular. You have a lot of businesses that cater to both the right and the left, but what we try to do is sell ourselves by saying, hey, but with our message, we're boldly, unapologetically progressive, and I think more people are going to appreciate that, and you're going to win people over more so than those who may be turned off by it. So we have a core group of advertisers and people who appreciate our willingness to stand up for major issues, and I think so. What I'm saying is the challenge is being so progressive, being so one-sided, and we don't see it as one-sided, but a lot of people who have conservative views may differ about that, may turn people off, but in fact that's actually helped grow and energize our base. So that's how we've overcome it.
What was some of your biggest surprises developing this?
I was just surprised which articles would and wouldn't be popular. I understood the Airbnb story might catch on, but I didn't know, and I'm sure it's very obvious to some people, like how much concern there was with the charter school system. I thought that would just be a small niche story, but that's one of the stories that really blew up, actually. And
this is about the charter schools and their inability to really pull their own weight for the money that they're getting from the state, and
that, and just the shutting down of the last public schools as truly public schools, the way people mourned that openly
That's an angle.
was fascinating to write about and to see up close as the board just decided to be done with schools as truly public entities, you know.
And so you found that it was surprising how people were emotionally attached to that idea, that tradition, I guess, of public schools.
Yeah, the tradition, how I was surprised how much the story blew up. I was just surprised in general by the passion they had. And it was kind of breathtaking.
What other stories have surprised you, either for their passion or their lack, which extreme, one way or the other, something that didn't quite work as you expected, or?
What about the Nike story?
Yeah, that blew up in a major way. That was actually one of our biggest stories, and it was right when we came out, about a month into after our first published date. We broke the story about the mayor of Kenner coming out and banning Nike products at his recreational facilities because of the whole Colin Kaepernick controversy. Colin Kaepernick he decided that he was going to take a stand for conservatives, and it really backfired in a major way. In fact, that story, someone leaked the memo to us in the early hours of the morning. We ended up verifying the memo, making a few phone calls, and we were the first one to break that story. At the time, no one really wanted to give us a lot of attention. It was funny because the other media outlets like WWL and they were like, well, it was a social media firestorm, but it was Big Easy Magazine who broke that story, and it went, and CNN ended up picking it up. So I was a little, taken aback by, how far that went, and I think that's really what propelled us forward and gave us more momentum in seeing.
But it seems to me like you must know you've arrived if people are leaking you memos.
Yeah.
Right.
I wasn't really aware of that's like you said. I didn't know at the time. We didn't know that we arrived, and we were getting leaked memos because we were only a month into publishing. But people knew that we were in the scene, and I think we had a pretty good social media operation. We had some good brains together with Jen Bentley and Nolan Story and Bill Arsenault. I mean, we would have meetings and put our heads together, like, what's the best way to get this out here? Like, how frequently are we going to utilize social media? What's the best, most efficient way to utilize social media and other platforms to get our stories out there? I mean, we really had lengthy discussions about getting our brand established and getting out there. And those guys are our team is just wonderful. They're wonderful in their writing and their passion, and they push me forward every day as we continue to push the human race forward by our publishing.
What was one of the most difficult situations you've experienced?
I think the Drew Brees story.
Yes.
That was.
I would say so.
Go ahead
Which was about Drew Brees being supporting a group called the Family Forum.
Right.
Yes.
So
Focus on the family.
Yeah, focus on the family.
Focus on the family. Sorry. I get confused about these sometimes.
It was about. Let's see. It was a couple months ago, and we noticed something being tweeted on Twitter, a video of Drew Brees doing a commercial for Bring Your Bible to School Day, focus on the family. And Jen Bentley noticed it, and we said, hey, this is a story here. It was Edward Brandley from the Yat Pundit who tweeted out the video, and we said, we can't believe, he even mentioned, he said, we can't believe no one's even picked this up yet. And the first thing when I saw it was Drew Brees, and it was Focus on the Family, and I saw that he's been with Focus on the Family for 10 years plus, and then we looked into it even more, and we really learned about what Focus on the Family was about, and we're saying, okay, so we have this Hall of Fame quarterback figure who's beloved in the city of New Orleans doing a spot for an organization that has been labeled by a lot, like the Southern Poverty Law Group, as anti-LGBTQ because of their stance on conversion therapy. And so that was a big story. And I'm sorry if people think that it's not, but when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback.
So what do you learn when you cast aspersions on the nearest thing that New Orleans has to a deity?
Oh, yeah. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get an earful, and you're gonna get. I mean, we received a lot of threats. It wasn't fun, but I'm proud of my team for sticking by it and standing up for what they believe in, even in the face of adversity and even when it's unpopular. I really am. I'm proud of everyone for sticking together, and I think we came out ahead on that. And by the way, I want to say this because I know that we talked about the story, and it's only fair for me to say this about Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees is a good man. We never, in our journalistic capacity, the only thing that we were doing was telling a story that was already out there. He was doing a commercial for an organization that has been widely capped as anti-LGBTQ because of their stance on conversion therapy. I mean, anyone would have gotten that story if we didn't pick it up. So we're not saying just because we never alleged that he was anti-LGBTQ himself. We never made any of these allegations. We just simply told the story as it was.
And, we, on Fox News, they made it sound like we were arguing about bring your Bible to school day, and
Right.
we never had an opinion on that for the most part. And, there was a lot of misinformation that came around because of his story.
Right.
And you have a chance to fix that.
Yeah.
Right.
You're a news organization.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So you have mentioned that you have core values: kindness, compassion, equality, justice, love, and inclusiveness. How did you come up with this list? Is it on a wall somewhere? We have about 1 minute to go, too, so you have to be quick.
Well, there's this guy, Nicholas Peddle. I really want to thank him for helping. When I first formed Big Easy Magazine, I hired him and a group of people, and we pretty much brainstormed. Who are we, what are we about, and what are our values? And so the things that we determine guide our values and what we publish are kindness, compassion, inclusiveness, equality, justice. Those are the things that we want to see for the people of New Orleans. We want to do our part in a publishing capacity, a journalistic role, and ask the questions to push the human race forward. And so those are the values that guide us in what we do.
So you try to bring those values into your news, into your coverage of life in New Orleans.
Exactly.
Scott and Michael, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for telling us about the BigEasyMagazine.com today. And we look forward to another episode in the future of The Humanist Perspective.